All right. To my surprise, I'm actually being allowed via the absence of the usual characters to a stream, which yesterday I predicted I wouldn't be able to do. But hey, sometimes we're befallen by fate that we didn't quite anticipate. So let me go over to everyone's favorite Attorney General, the wonderful, transparency-inducing William Barr. Attorney General William Barr on Tuesday defended the Department of Justice's DOJ's decision to support a recent court decision to overturn Obamacare. The DOJ last month sided with a lower court ruling that held the Affordable Care Act was unconstitutional, going past its previous position that only part of the law should be struck down. Asked by Representative Matt Cartwright why the DOJ would take such dramatic and drastic decision, Barr replied, "Do you think it's likely we're going to prevail? We are in litigation, and we have to take a position. If you think it's such an outrageous position, you have nothing to worry about. Let the courts do their job." You know how stupid that is. So basically, hey, don't worry about what we say. The courts are going to strike it down anyway. But then, why did you even give a position? Whatever. A federal judge in Texas struck down Obamacare in December, ruling that the law's individual mandate was unconstitutional. I love how, like I said before, I think single payer is better than the ACA, but you're going to have this law that's been around for almost 10 years, and it took you over 2,000 days to analyze it and go, yeah, this part of it shouldn't exist or is not permitted by the Constitution. The same document that we like to pretend doesn't even. It's like, yeah, we're such constitutionalists. That's why we're not trying to repeal the Patriot Act that violates the Fourth Amendment, because we care a lot about the Constitution. Bunch of hypocrites. They're very picky and choosy about when they want to follow the law, quote unquote. So that's stupid. Barr, is trying to defend himself. I don't even think he really has a position. I just feel like he, wanted to have his old job back because he was attorney general during the older Bush's tenure, and he was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess I have to give my opinion on this healthcare thing that I don't really know anything about. So let me just say something, and then, that should satisfy Trump." So that's probably his position, which is not a position. It's just he's in a circumstance of having to say something about a law that he probably has no actual, particular view on. It's like how after Kelly, the chief of staff and the Homeland Security secretary, the first one that Trump had, I think after he left office, he said something to the effect of the wall would be a waste or some kind of something that was very clearly negative in relation to Trump's position. But it was really funny because it's like that was your top guy, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. All right, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Kamala Harris's boyfriend, and if anyone wants to know why I said that, you're more than welcome to ask, said Tuesday that it would be premature for him to comment on Democrats' request for President Trump's tax returns, and he hasn't personally spoken to anyone in the White House about the issue. I'm actually recalling, I think there's an article from maybe about a year ago where he did give an opinion on the tax returns that Trump had. So if I can find that article, which again, I'm not sure if it exists, but I remember reading that, and it was over a year ago. So if I can find it and he gives his opinion, that lets you know he's full of crap because you already gave your opinion a year ago. I'm telling you, you just follow this stuff and you find all kind of weird things people say. I think it would be premature at this point to make any specific comments other than as I've been consistently saying before. I've been consistent before in saying it is being reviewed by the legal departments and we look forward to responding to the letter. I don't remember him ever saying that before. He said at a House Appropriations Subcommittee hearing. I never understood these testifying sessions because it's like you can't get Trump to testify, so let's get all of his little cronies and department heads to say whatever they think he's gonna like. It just doesn't seem like it ever accomplishes anything. Like we've had a couple of, I guess, funny moments from those, but even then, it still is just, yeah. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Richard Neal, Democrat of Massachusetts, last week sent a letter to the IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig requesting 6 years of Trump's personal and business tax returns. He asked for the documents by April 10th, which is one day away. Could you imagine, like, uh, Rettig or whatever his name is forgot all the way up until today? He's like, oh my God, I got to mail these, and then just start sending them. Mnuchin is viewed as a key figure to watch the administration's responder request since the IRS is part of the Treasury Department. Democrats argue that the law doesn't give the IRS any wiggle room to deny their request, but Mnuchin could try to signal loyalty toward Trump by fighting it. Yeah, he's definitely going to signal loyalty. He wants to keep his job. I'm telling you, every one of these secretaries I like the least is going to stay all the way through. All the really, really horrible ones. Like, I said before, I thought Mattis was a warmonger, but he was still someone that actually seemed like they were going to change their mind, or at least had a different opinion from the orthodoxy of that cabinet on certain issues like climate change and the Iran deal. So it's a frustrating thing. It's like, can we? People jump for joy when they get rid of anybody. It's like, can we get rid of the ones that actually really suck? Let me say hello to Ed. Let me say hello to Mark, who is just now showing up. I was getting really worried that he had got himself some dream date and was too busy to say anything. The Justice Department on Tuesday announced charges against 24 people in 1.2 billion Medicare scheme in a 1.2 billion Medicare scheme that said unnecessary orthopedic braces to seniors that sold. I'm messing everything up there. Anyways, they sold unnecessary braces, orthopedic braces to seniors. An official said the scheme involved offering Medicare beneficiaries orthotic braces, saying they were free to them and covered by Medicare. Patients who expressed interest were reportedly patched through to call centers in the Philippines and Latin America that were in on the scam, which would verify the beneficiaries' coverage and transfer them to telemedicine companies. The call centers collected prescriptions and sold them to medical equipment companies, officials said, which shipped the braces to beneficiaries and billed Medicare for them. The medical equipment companies received Medicare reimbursement of $500 to $900 per brace, for which they paid kickbacks of nearly $300 per brace, according to the AP. Those charged in the scheme included doctors accused of writing bogus prescriptions, call center owners, and medical equipment companies, according to the AP. The Department of Health and Human Services is also taking action against 130 medical equipment companies that billed Medicare a total of $1.7 billion, more than 900,000 million of which was paid out, according to the AP. God, every part of this article, according to the AP, according to the AP, according to the AP. Mr. David. It's like 4 or 5 sentences, according to the AP. Jesus. Anyways, that was weird. I'm glad they caught them. And it feels like every time the criminals do something that's really elaborate, they get away. But then if it's something like someone owning marijuana, they catch you in 2 seconds. It's like, oh, you stole all these people's, you scammed them with, charging them for Medicare on things that were not covered. Oh, it's okay. Oh, we caught you with some pot. Oh, it's time to hit the slammer forever. According to the AP, so they actually know what's going on. Yeah, they just keep citing the AP. The AP never lets you down. Just AP, AP, AP. Senate Republicans say Democrats are holding up a disaster relief package over funding for Puerto Rico to exact revenge on GOP senators who voted against aid for Senate Democratic leader Charles Schumer, Democrats' home state of New York, in the wake of Hurricane Sandy. Georgia Senator Johnny Isakson, I can't stand that weasel, told reporters on Tuesday that the lead Democratic negotiator, Senator Patrick Leahy, reminded him of his vote against disaster relief for New York and New Jersey more than 6 years ago in a recent conversation that grew heated. The senator from Vermont called me last Friday and said, I know none of you remember Leahy's voice, but it's like, I want to show you something. So he sent over this 2-page spread of that vote. Of the 37 no votes, I was one of them, Isakson said when asked whether Democrats are stalling disaster relief for Georgia and other Republican states to exact revenge. Republican senators are pointing to the conversation as evidence that the impasse over a pending disaster relief package for Midwestern and Southern states, as well as Puerto Rico, is part of a political vendetta by Democrats. Isakson was one of 36 Republican senators who, in early 2013, voted against a $51 billion package to provide relief to New York, New Jersey, and other states hit by Sandy in the fall of 2012. Georgia's other senator at the time, Senator Saxby Chambliss, and Senator Marco Rubio, whose home state of Florida also stands to benefit from the pending disaster relief bill, also voted against the Sandy package. But see, it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I voted against this because I'm a morally principled person, but then if they vote against my thing or if they express opposition to it, they're all evil and how dare they and all that stuff. Mark says the pharmaceutical business is a detriment. Wow, that light is just switching over and over to our health in a way. This is a response to a report you read a few minutes ago. Oh, I'm sorry that I almost forgot. I'm so happy that we've made it through like what is this 4 or 5 stories and it's still no mention of Trump. Like it's not him being propped up in our faces throughout all of the different stories, stuff with Congress and whatnot. It's always a nice thing because it's just like how many times you talk about the same person. Like, we went over this before. There's like 5 people in politics now that they cover all the time, and then everybody else just gets completely ignored or ignored for the most part. So let me see if I can find something else. There's the D student. I'm not going to talk about him. Top armed services Republican. Okay, the top Republican on the House Armed Services Committee said Tuesday that he doesn't think anybody is satisfied with the Trump administration's Space Force proposal. Representative Mac Thornberry, Republican of Texas, told reporters that he expects the broad outlines of the proposal to have a military branch for space under the Department of the Air Force, who will be taken up by the House, but the lawmakers will change specifics within the plan. I am not, and I don't think anybody is satisfied with the state of the proposal that initially came over, Thornberry said. They got directed to send it over like 10 days before it came, so the Air Force acknowledges that it was not fleshed out the way it should be and vetted. In February, the Pentagon officially delivered to Congress its legislative proposal to fulfill President Trump's order to establish the Space Force. Unlike Trump's original pledge to have the service be separate but equal from the Air Force, the final product calls for Space Force to remain in the Department of Air Force in a structure similar to the Marine Corps relationship to the Navy. So they already backflipped. He says one thing, they do the other. How beautiful is that? Holy hell. They just seem so simple. Okay, these two things are going to be separate but equal. And then, oh no, we're going to have to put them together. And I guarantee he didn't ask them, why do we have to do that? If we have to at all, if people are just messing with them. So, fantasy candidates that would make being president very interesting. Winfrey, Johnson. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm kind of, it's really funny whenever someone mentions those celebrities, I don't get mad that they're doing that or say I'm opposed because they're famous and never held office before. It's the fact that because they don't talk about this stuff with any regularity in the years leading up to running, you never know what position they're going to take on anything. Like one of the things about Trump was that he had a record of saying things in the past about politics to where people could say, oh, you just backflipped, you pedaled, you flip-flop, you changed your position. And it was really funny because in the case of people like Oprah, I remember she supported the Iraq War, but I don't know what her positions are on any of the other conflicts we're in. But that would be my principal opposition because I'd be worried about a shapeshifter, a person who they hear one thing or somebody talk about something and they go, oh, I can latch onto that and claim it's mine and get some votes from it. So that would be the biggest issue. Not that they've never held office before, because I can think of plenty of people who I would rather have in office that haven't been, in politics prior than, a lot of these senators or members of the House and whatnot. David says celebrities really don't know much about politics per se, so really hear a basketball player talking about these topics. Oh, I thought you said so don't really want to hear a basketball player talking about these topics. I guess it's entertaining. Yeah, I was going to say that what he's getting at, I'm not upset over, and I don't like bemoan someone who wants to try. It's just I personally think if the celebrity has had a career of something else and you've never heard them give a position on issues, I'm not going to really be that convinced you actually are serious about this stuff. I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying, David. I didn't want there to be any misconceptions or delusions or errors or uh, problems or whatnot. Use all the little different synonyms that we can find. Pull out my big old thesaurus. But going back to what you were saying, Mark, um, there's plenty of people who've never held it before that I would love to see attempt to run for something. I just hate how it seems like the only office we can ever get people to genuinely be excited for is president. Because if I was trying, I would run for either the House or the Senate. Because I think it's a lot easier, and secondly, that you can have a longer influence than you could if you were in that other office, which again is hampered by the billions of dollars that people spend to keep certain people out of there. It's just really funny that a lot of the because I told you I look at some of the people who don't like Sanders, and they still think that his supporters were making it up when they said that Democratic primary was rigged, and they still blame his supporters along with the rest of the world for why Hillary didn't win that election. And it's really funny because I was looking at some of the comments that people were writing under this hashtag, and somebody said something to the effect of, I'm working to purge him from the primary. And I respond to, I said, so I'm sure his campaign is so scared that someone whose entire extent of influence is sitting on Twitter writing stupid stuff is working to get rid of him. And I thought that was just strange because it goes back to how these people are authoritarian when it comes to political views that are not their own. I would never say I'm working to purge Harris or Booker or Buttigieg, whatever the dude's name is, from the primary. The people are going to purge them when they don't vote for them. But like in their head, they actually thought, what was going on, or they actually think they're doing something of high influence. And I said I didn't say this, but it's like if you really want to defeat this person, give the maximum. It was like 2007. Give that full thing to that person, to the person you like, so they can have your entire, like. There's nothing more you can do than give that amount, and then go campaign for that person in your state. That's what you should do if you actually are so serious about backing the person you're for. But instead, all she writes is that she was a Harris supporter. Doesn't give a policy reason for why she backs her over Sanders. It's more of that they have a vagina, so I must support them. The taco hive mind. So that was her big reason. I think I said hello to Lodo already. Probably not. Let me say hello. Mark says, but being in the Senate is cool. David says, but who has more say on what goes, president or Senate? Well, look, I don't. Easily, the president has more influence on stuff. But my point is that when you have a Congress with people you don't trust and that you think are actively going to do something against regular people, and you want to make sure the person you put in there is actually going to do what you think is right, you're probably going to be convinced to run yourself for that. But like I said, David, it also has to do with, I just think it's way easier to run for one of those seats in Congress than for president. So it's all based around that there's a certain level of inaccessibility with the executive branch. I mean, like, think about it. We just had a new candidate, Gravel, who I'm sure maybe like two of you have heard of before, probably not. But he said, "I don't want to win. I just want to be on the debate stage." He has to get 65,000 people to donate to him, and that's something that it just seems so ridiculous. But it's one of those things they purposefully put up because they know that they're gonna, like, they're going out of their way to screw over basically anyone who doesn't isn't part of the wealthy elite. Because you notice how people like Harris, for example, were able to raise millions of dollars very quickly, and like had all these backers. It has to do with name recognition. At least in this state anyway. There's a lot of stupid people that live in my state that go, "Oh my God, you're from California, we have to vote for you." And also the fact that they just want, to support that particular person. But there are certain factors that are propped up by the media that are out of the control of the candidates. If I announced today, for example, I wouldn't get 65,000 people to donate. But do you see how that arbitrary number makes it to where a person who potentially could say something on the debate stage that you might not hear from the other people automatically has to fight their way to the top to even get there? Anyways, let me put his ad, his not his ad, his because I was gonna do a video on him, but I have a thing where basically anytime I do a video, people don't actually like see it. Like there's a way smaller turnout for that than a stream, which is kind of it's a little disappointing because when I try to edit stuff, and that's what I like about streams, you can't cut anything out or have any gaffes that you remove. I'm gonna put his donate thing in here just so you can, or rather, I'll put his website in here and then you can check him out, see if you like him. I think he's great. And I really do hope that at least somebody in here donates to him because I donated. But again, it's not because I want you to give him $1,000. It's just because he needs the numbers to be able to qualify for the debates. So that link. I hate it when they have the links and then you can't find them when you just conveniently when you are trying to show somebody something. You'll probably be able to see it on there. Mark says, I guess having social proof and intelligence along with being able to contact with the people, then you can be, yeah. Well, again, it's still based on just the factors that are out of your control. Like, I have no say or whim over how many people donate or what they donate. So because of that, they make it to where it's very, very possible you won't even be able to, give a debate performance. All right, so he's currently at 10,400 people that have donated. So that's like a sixth of the way there. I'll send this other link to you right there. So I recommend going on his site, looking at his positions. And I get that it's really hard to get people to support a campaign that says we're not trying to win. But I do think that he has something interesting to say. That's just my position. And let's get back to the news. See if there's anything else that needs to be discussed. You have true, if Congress doesn't know of you, it will be much harder to get votes, and people are wild cards because most don't know what's going on. Yeah, and I think I told you before, I've tried in a couple of instances to like make little like person-to-person campaigns of just attempting to quote unquote educate someone, where I'll have like some papers and I'll say, hey, can I talk to you about this? And it always feels like it goes in one ear and out the other. Like, I literally could knock on every person's door in my district if I was running for the House and then still end up losing because the people, even if they like what you're saying, have this weird tendency to support the incumbent and also just don't really see a difference. Or if they do, they don't think there's an urgent enough need to go out and run or to vote for that person who's running, rather. I said before, I don't like for the most part debates. I would rather see the candidates go out and give like some long speech that outlines their positions and whatnot, but I would still probably participate in those if it meant, getting my view across. So that's why it's kind of a double sword, or it's more of a mixed bag, as I would like to call it. Let's see here. Mark says, "Will candidates' religious views / beliefs determine whether they get in office or not?" I don't think they care. Like, I refuse to believe most people care about if someone's atheist or not, or if they're homosexual or not. Just a bunch of stuff that I don't see as really being a factor. I think that people try to use that stuff to discount a candidate being unpopular with people, and they like, remember, oh my God, you didn't vote for Hillary, so you're sexist and you hate women, and you probably get pissed when you see one of them. So they say that kind of stuff to try to get the person to feel bad and ashamed for not backing someone that is happens to be of this gender or of this identity, whatever the hell. And usually it doesn't work because, I mean, I'm not going to be too ashamed if someone I don't know thinks negatively of me. You don't even know me. David says you have to sell them something and make it sound good. It doesn't have to be true. They don't care about religious views. Everyone swears on the Bible when they come in. Yeah, they swear on the Bible and then they go and commit acts of terror. Like, I bring up Yemen because I want people to understand that is literally the worst humanitarian crisis in modern history, and it was started by the first, quote unquote minority president, and also the first continued by the first one to not have any prior political experience. So it doesn't matter what background they have; they just seem to keep doing the same thing. And then their supporters will swear up and down they're nothing alike. I remember going on this one website, and it was trying to think of a way to describe it. It was not a political website. It was a website people would share stuff they drew, stuff they were writing, basically all forms of art, right? And there was a person who put up a drawing of like their, people like to describe themselves with certain, like a little box of likes and dislikes. And the rest, you look on the rest of their page, they're just writing little stories and drawing stuff, and they put on under their likes 44th president, dislikes 45th president. I said to myself, how disingenuous you have to be to try and convince people on this website that has nothing to do with politics about your political views, that if most people even asked you about, you probably would refuse to say. But it's like you're the one who brought it into the discussion because you put it on your page. It just felt remember, I think I said before in a couple of streams, there was a guy on C-SPAN on New Year's Day who said it was going to be a year of grandstanding and mudslinging or something, like maybe that reversed. It's literally that, where the person is trying to grandstand by saying, I can't stand who's currently in there. The one that was in there before I really like. Like, why? No reason whatsoever. Sometimes I'm just surrounded by clowns. I just try to avoid them. So you can like whoever you want to like, but don't be surprised when I kind of say I'm good. Oh man, it's really amusing to kind of see the narrative, like you're told over and over again you don't matter, by people who don't have your same political views. But then when you actually say, okay, I'm not going to bother talking to you, yada yada yada, they still come to you. They still try to convince you, like, I'm supposed to believe that this stuff doesn't matter. We don't get anybody in here. And then a few days ago, I get a comment about how wrong I am on Sanders or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well then, your narrative is my vote doesn't matter. I'm insignificant. So why even write anything? Mark says the worst humanitarian crisis in Yemen, yet most Americans and people around the world don't give a. Why? Because they don't experience such horrendous situations. Yeah, that's my point. That it's all based around the lack of empathy. Like, I keep getting told over and over again how I'm supposed to feel bad for the impoverished in the U.S., and I do. But with all due respect, they're not being starved to death, or just it's still not as bad as what's going on over there, being bombed daily and having to go to sleep with your hands over your ears because you don't know if you're going to get hit by some foreign country's doomsday weaponry. But again, we're supposed to not care because it's happening somewhere else. I kept trying to explain to people, I literally will never say Obama or Trump or either of those two was anything other than mediocre at best because of that one event. I don't care. It's based around the fact that too many people don't care. So I just say, all right, well, I'm gonna make this as big as it should be. It's like, how I thought to myself, how the hell do you get to bomb thousands of people, including, again, children under the age of 5 who are not terrorists, haven't done any evil acts. And then we're supposed to just be like, oh, okay, well, it's happening somewhere else, so I guess I just have to ignore it. They really think that way. So, and look, there's no point in trying to tell any of their supporters about this stuff either, because when I was on Twitter, there was a person who, I sent one of the story to. They were a Trump supporter, and they were like, "Oh, I don't care because if we weren't killing them, they'd be trying to kill us." Even though Yemen has never committed any terrorist act against the U.S., but more stuff in his head to convince himself to keep blindly, swallowing Trump's cum up his mouth. So it's all part of that same cycle of dear leader can never be wrong. Daddy knows best, so go along with whatever he does. Same thing with Obama supporters. Like I've seen a couple of them go, "Oh, okay, it's not too bad," but still, man, is this even the real envoy? Because we already know what O'Donoghue likes to do with all his different accounts, so I wouldn't be too surprised. No, you tripped me up with that stuff at the end of your name. So what happened? Just add a new name to my name. Yeah, that's why I'm suspicious. David says, can't really do that because wouldn't you want someone to help you out when things go bad? Just show a little compassion. I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that. Oh yeah, that's really him. I was just making sure. Hate just spreads more hate, whereas the kindness towards our fellow people. We claim to be the free in a capitalist society. Absolute hypocrisy. Shaking my head. Yeah, they keep telling you about how wonderful our democracy is, and then it's because of our democracy's strapping of itself to places like Saudi Arabia and Israel, or rather their governments, that we go and bomb innocent children in the Middle East that Americans don't care about because it's not happened to them. Like anytime you hear one of these Trump supporters or just Republicans talk about how much they're pro-life and the sanctity of babies and the need to live and all this, don't buy any of it. If I was running against a Republican, I would bring up Yemen in 2 seconds, especially one that's been in Congress since it started. It's like you didn't care one iota about getting out of there and preventing all those children from getting murdered. So, I don't care. Oh well. It's all about the almighty dollar. Yeah, they're getting paid to go and kill innocent people. All because Saudi Arabia's girlfriend government got yanked by the Houthi rebels. Here comes here comes stupid US to screw it up even more. We're gonna do the same thing in Venezuela soon, so it's all good. Just kill more people. More banana wars. Mark says, "Yep, you're right. That's what makes the world go round." Respond to Envoy, all those coins. And then when Ilhan said, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby," they lost their mind. Start calling her anti-Semitic. David says, "How the hell we went from majority Republicans to now Democrats?" The Democrats won more seats in the House. I wish they could win the Senate because that seems to be the impossible chamber. Like I still can't get over some of the seats the Republicans. I was like, you let them have a seat in Maine for 2 decades with Collins, on like this idea that she's a moderate or whatever. And now you guys hate her because of one vote. And then like in Iowa, they lost. They lost both seats there, both Senate seats. It's just I'm amazed at just where the Republicans been able to win in some instances. Like holy hell. Then Florida's got 2 Republicans. Everywhere. O'Rourke probably could beat Cornyn in Texas because I don't think Cornyn's as popular as Cruz, but he decided to run for president. So we're gonna have to see who else gets fished up. I don't get why you would pass up getting a Senate seat to be one of 19 people running for the Democratic nomination. But hey, that's how his mind works. People kept telling him, run, you have a chance. And he believed them, and now it's I think it's gonna bite him. Metaphorically, of course, before somebody comes here and says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you threatened him." Because people love taking stuff out of context. They just that's like crack to them. It's really lovely. I don't really see anything else. I think this is the bottom of the barrel with the news. Like, there's other stuff, but it's just not as entertaining. It's more Trump said this, Trump did that. I'm like, who cares? God, get a new person to obsess about. What would make a president great and be remembered for millennials? Do something about this student loan debt crisis. Like, I see all these people losing their minds about free college, but then it's like, okay, so are you going to lower it to where people don't spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that in a lot of cases they don't own, which is why they take out loans and grants? Are you going to lower that? Or you like, what are you going to do basically? I never see them talk about solving that. Maybe raise some wages, which are nationally are still $7. Oh, of course. Wait, there's always an immigration story. If it's not on the Hill, it's somewhere else. Let me type it in. They love that. I should make a whole other channel, just immigration network, and just talk about all the different immigration stories that came out today. This is 37 minutes ago from the LA Times. Trump says the U.S. is too full for migrants. The opposite is true. So that's an editorial. They took some quote Obama had from 2 days ago, from Saturday rather. I worry sometimes we think about how to deal with the immigration issue. We think any moves towards assimilation of the existing newcomers to the existing culture is somehow a betrayal or a denial of people's heritage or what have you. Uh, if you're going to have a coherent, cohesive society, then everybody has to have some agreed upon rules, and there's got to have to be some accommodations that everybody makes. That includes the people who are newcomers. And here comes the man who made himself admin. Mark says, "What are the chances of Trump being so authentic?" What's really funny is that I remember in his after he won the election, there was this one person who made like 2 or 3 different videos about why he thought Trump would get murdered or whatever, and it was all based around doing stuff that was against the establishment, like ending the wars or some kind of other some social issue that they didn't expect him to tackle. But now, ever since he started continuing all the little conflicts and the usual big money stuff, they're completely confident he'll stay around. They won't do anything to him. And look, I happen to agree with that. I said if he was really so transformational, why are all of these different groups completely cozy with him? Like, sure, you had the generals freak out about the Syria withdrawal, but then he took it back. So they, crisis averted. So I just don't buy that he's really, anything's gonna happen to him. He's gonna survive whether he has 1 or 2 terms and then get out and get replaced by somebody else. Oh God, more Kennedy stuff. I'm not interested in. God, it's like anytime there's something I just don't feel like talking about, they happen to get brought up somehow. It's so crazy. It's like you read my mind. Like, let me go to his sore spot. And then Load says at me he wants to like wave at me or something. And then Load is going to confess that he voted for Hillary and he's trying to draft her to run for president again. David says supposedly Trump is supposed to because of oh my God. Yeah, more conspiracy stuff. I can't wait for that stream where I just admit I'm part of the pyramid and actually hold the pyramid and I start floating, and then like Arabic text appears on the screen, and everybody's so confused. No, you remember the video of the Young Turks and what is this Load? And it was Envoy. Do you remember, because you're saying the reptilian men? Remember the video with TYT getting crashed at the RNC by what's his name? The one that got deplatformed by Jones, and how Cenk was like, "We're against Saudi Arabia. What do you think, the lizard people control it?" You remember that? I thought it was hilarious. That's what that reminded me of when you said it. Load says I showed. Da, 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 da. I mean, again, like I'm fairly convinced no one, that there are people who don't think I'm entirely hideous. That doesn't shock me, but it is what it is. I guess I appreciate it. I'm not sure what the point of doing that was. You got me a little worried there. I have something to confess. I'm really part of the military-industrial complex, and we're monitoring you and all the other anti-war people. God, he's over there trying to give somebody a heart attack. Mark says it doesn't exist, but ended back in the late 1700s. Load says, "Nah, the government couldn't pay me enough to be a shill." Then you go over to Load's channel, and he's doing a live stream where he's telling you about how great the Patriot Act is, and we don't need single payer. We need what was that law that Trump had, the American Health Care Act or something like that plan. And then he's telling us that we need to actually invade Venezuela, North Korea, and Iran and have 10 wars instead of 7. We need just everywhere have a different conflict going. That's what Load is going to state. He's going to reveal himself. And maybe Load showed her my channel as as an April Fool's joke. Like, oh, here's somewhere you can learn about hair care products, and then it's someone talking about the news. That was part of his gag. Or does anyone have anything else to say or what? Because again, the news is pretty much. I guess the problem with doing it around this time is that usually the Hill gets more stories up until 4 or 5 p.m. But because I don't know what will happen in the next couple of hours, I try to just do it when I can. Just saying. Yeah, they're gonna put me in space. David says, "How are all these wars and fights going on? Who is part of the United Alliance?" I can't answer the last question, but if you want to know what countries were doing it, I can write them down for you. Let me write it down. Just to remind everyone. The UN is basically the USA's. They really can't do anything. Okay. There's your 7 countries that your tax dollars are going to bomb that a solid chunk of people don't even know exist. Have fun with that. I should repost that video that Rand did where he was like, most people couldn't even name Yemen on the map. It was true. I bet if you went around to every county in the U.S. and said, "Name here's a globe, pick out Yemen," it'd be like 2% or 1 or something, just really small. Just like how they were talking about how most people can't even name. It was like 60% couldn't name a Supreme Court justice. That was hilarious. Oh man. And again, all of this stuff is funny because I understand people, like you're not taught about the Supreme Court when you're in school and all. I get that. But what I find really funny is that when you're in a chat like this, usually if this is what I would do if I was in someone's chat and they asked the chat the question, I would look it up. And I would not, like say, "Oh, I looked it up." I would just write it down. See, I don't even know where Yemen is, not even Somalia. Well, I can't name it either, but my point is I still know what's going on over there. Did you see how they were attacking for being a male candidate? Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's a feminist society and you're not in it. That's why, like, if you saw, the different stupid stuff they said to Bernie when he was running against Hillary, why are you trying to deny us the first female Democratic presidential nominee? So, it literally is, "I'm sorry for having a penis." That's what you have to just start saying. And so I told people, it's really nice to just be able to like not have to worry about being a good candidate, but because you have someone between your legs, you can just kind of get away with being crap. You know, that's really terrific. So yeah, I heard that first about her. That's insane. Yeah, if I ran for the House, I would have to apologize for having a penis. They might not do that as much because they don't pay as much attention to local elections, you know, because they're all like warped on the presidency. But you get my point that like anytime a man runs against a woman, it's like apparently now some kind of issue or sacrilege. Like, how dare you deny her rightful place at the seat after hundreds of years of male oppression in the U.S. that you had absolutely nothing to do with because you didn't exist back then nor participate in it. David says this men versus women game is really annoying. Why even start that nonsense? Yeah, but like I said, it's going to backfire on them because think about did all that name calling and you're a sexist and Bernie did any of that actually help them court supporters of the other candidates? No. So you know, I have like what two of all those chicks running that I would actually vote for. Everybody else, I don't care. Cry me a river. And you know, you're not going to come on here and make me feel bad because I don't go, oh my god, person has taco must cast vote ballot. David, it divides the nation. That's why. Yeah, they try to catch you up in that gender stuff. That was really funny, like how they would try. They basically just say, you know, sit out your forget your ambitions. You weren't born with the right genitalia, or your genitalia has been overused, so you must sit back and let everything go to hell. Like it's really funny to see both Sanders and Tulsi get smeared as being Russian candidates or whatever. Like, or rather, he's Russian and she's Syrian as far as who they're in the pocket of or whatever. It's really amusing. I probably get smeared as being in Iran's pocket, so they pick a different country to stick you with. Load says the thing that bothers them is that all the female candidates this time around are polling horrendously and they're running out of straws to grasp. Yeah, you saw O'Rourke get in there and then Harris just starts dipping and dipping, dipping and dipping. And then the only one of them who's really been that consistent as far as just like I'm always in fourth or fifth place is Warren. But I think pretty much all of them would be able to get higher if Biden got in and then he started doing his little fumbles. That's true, but then we are supposed to go out and vote with all this division. It won't work. Pretty much, even Obama was called a Muslim. I mean, you know, I would get called an atheist in 2 seconds because of stuff I say about the Bible, but you know, I don't care. It's all done just to smear whoever is running against them. So they can enjoy their little divisive game. I mean, it's not going to get anyone new to vote for you. That I hope they realize that. No, nobody's gonna go. I'm not gonna go home after reading a bunch of stupid stuff on Twitter that I usually don't even read anyway, and I'm gonna go, "Oh my god, I'm such a bad man for not voting for somebody because they have a vagina." Where? So, Envoy says, "Yeah, David, the crazy. It's the best way for the politicians to get votes in their eyes. Yeah, but it's gonna keep backfiring. They can keep doing it." And I can't. So I guess the scariest thing of this stream was Load giving his confession, which had me stunned in my tracks. I was so worried. I was shaking in my boots. So many people. David says too many people live by labels. I'm this. I'm that. Yeah, it's like that's what I was saying. Like you have these candidates who's like are people whose whole personality is being their gender. Like that broad that was on Twitter saying if you're a man who doesn't read female authors, you've never seen someone who does that who is not sexist. I'm like, who the hell even still reads? like in her head, she like it's all based around what's down here. You can't just say I like this particular book by this person who happens to be with it. No, must have vagina. Oh, they're insane. Crazy bastards. Like they're actually trying to force Sanders to put a well, not even just Sanders. I've seen them do it to other people. They did this with Booker. They did this with Hickenlooper. All the guys like basically must commit to having, or at least heavily considering, a female candidate for their VP. And like I said before, I can think of plenty of people who would be great as president or vice president who are chicks, but you're not gonna like make someone get stuck to that, Well, it says, imagine being so drenched in ideology that you call people sexist because they haven't read enough female authors. When I was reading, I thought it was a joke because April Fool's Day was last week. I thought I was like watching some kind of literal gag, but that was her serious position. And like I said, if I came on a video and I said you're a sexist, if you're a woman, you probably hate men if you don't read male authors, everybody would think I was insane, would write stuff, tell me how crazy I was, and how assuming I am, and how all this different rightful condemnation. But because someone has a vagina, they can go on that whole thing of the historical oppression of women. It's like, okay, well then screw it. Which, even though I don't actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember there ever being a time where women couldn't write. I know there were periods you couldn't have directors and stuff like that, but I don't remember them like being barred from writing. Just saying, that's from what I can recall. They didn't pay an idiot like her any mind. No, I didn't actually respond to it. I was just commenting on it because it was another part of the whole feminist society having its double standards. Oh yeah, men and women are equal, but men must approach women at all times, and must always be the first one to ask, and blah 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 blah. Mark says double standards pretty much applies to anything and anything and everything. Yeah. If a woman's not dating a man, she's independent. If a man's not trying to date a woman, he's apparently homosexual, even though we've never seen him make out with another man or do any other explicit sexual act with someone of the same gender. But that's too much logic and common sense is thrown in there when you start debating how perception is skewed in favor of anyone with a vagina. So we've been over this before. It's all cool. It's a-okay. Can't win with ignorant people. Well, that's kind of my thing. They're not winning with us either. Like, I'm not encouraged. Like I told you before, I have yet to see a single tweet or YouTube comment that just made me go, "Oh my God, I've seen the light. I've now changed my mind about what I need to do and all." It doesn't work. I've seen videos, but not crap where somebody writes something on a keyboard and my whole ideology is just evolved afterward. Like, screw that. The courage of your convictions, basically. Mark says, danger, danger. I think he's talking about himself. He's the real threat. He's gonna have FBI Director Wray wiretap his phone. That's what Lowe was trying to come in here and give the confession about. He's secretly like writing down usernames for them to go and hunt after and dig up all kinds of stuff on because they're actively opposing all of our different conflicts. No, I like blue. David says, can't be logical and now I got to play stupid. Yeah, they go by the same things. That's the style that's involved. Like I said, it's really weird because if you go off of the fact that there's an entire set of circumstances and issues that don't get addressed, you're supposed to kind of put up with it whenever you say anything. People try to bounce back and make all kind of comments. Load says, what about this Ivy League bribe scandal? I'm kind of annoyed people act surprised that this still exists. Well, it goes back to how they're not actively thinking about it, so they don't put much thought into, when it gets brought to the limelight or up and talked about with regularity. I'm gonna have to call out Mr. Amanu. I'm very flattered that he's been noticing my choice of dress. I'm so he's I can't believe it. I didn't think anyone else would notice. He's my fashion critic. Mark says dumbing down your intelligence to satisfy or get validation from someone. Screw that. I mean, like I told you, I don't usually go out and even say the stuff, just out of nowhere. It's oftentimes you have people who will express their position, and then when they hear you don't have the same one, they lose their mind. David says, anyone heard of the Trilateral Commission that was founded by David Rockefeller? Trilateral Commission. Sounds familiar. All right, and then again, my fashion critic is making another comment. It's like, ooh, I like just these shirts. Oh yeah. Oh my god. I'll tell you what. I'll buy a bunch of new clothes so that how you pronounce your first name. I'll buy a bunch of new clothes when we stop bombing 7 countries. Load says, yeah, I've heard of the Trilateral Commission, but I gotta admit, I don't know what it actually is. Yes, in the same stack of papers. So again, whenever you can address the policy substance of what we're saying, we'll actually, want to listen to you. But like I said, there's a specific kind of YouTuber, and I think it's funny because we talked about trying to ward off stuff that doesn't matter. What exactly does my shirt have to do with the quality of the content? What do my papers have to do with the quality of the content? But again, you switch to one topic because you can't really address what exactly is being said as relates to the news. So it's a-okay. Enough attention at home today. Like I said, he's part of that relationship pack where they like to leave all these comments about how somebody looks and I'm so pretty and all that. It's weird. No, I think I told you that like he would leave the same comment. I don't know if it's a guy or a chick, but they would leave the same comment over and over again. Be like, that's fine. I guess you're not getting an answer to that. You can keep leaving it, but it's not getting responded to. They never seem to quite go away, huh? Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before that there's a group who has this forever association with me with the romance stuff, right? So whenever you talk about something else, they can't just go along with the flow and discuss whatever the story because again, clothing has nothing to do with the stories that are being talked about here. But for whatever reason, they can't discuss the things that are being talked about. They have to, focus on something that's inconsequential. I mean, if I was convinced that me buying a new shirt would, suddenly cause dozens more people to come in here and check this out, I probably would do it, or would end one of these different military conflicts. Maybe make it to where 27% of the homeless weren't veterans and people that had served honorably and then treated like crap when they came back here. I would do it, but it doesn't happen. David says, "Who cares what people wear? It's fine. Some people don't have squat or a roof over their heads." Yeah, it's all based around talking about something else that is easy to critique or bring attention to, versus actually discussing things that matter. it's just weird, you know. Like, I mean, I'm flattered that you've appreciated my digs, but I don't know. It just seems strange. Like, what's what is going through your mind? But like I said, I just kind of accept that there is a part in people's brains where they just have to talk about things that don't matter. I've seen the same person whine about similar things for quite a while. It doesn't change my opinion on it. But you notice you didn't see him talk about any of the stories, any of the news, nothing. Came in here to talk about someone's clothes, which you actually can't even see the full thing of because I never show myself from the bottom because I'm sitting down. And that's pretty much the extent of his contribution to the conversation. So it's really wonderful. I wish I had some way of making it to where there was like a somewhere I could get the chat to go where there's specific people who can show up in the chat and then the rest of them are like not able to go in there. It'd be great. And like I said, what do you call that besides obsessive personality? Because if it mattered so much to him and you've been noticing this and it bothers you, you would think you would leave, right? Nope. Got to show back up. So it's all part of a cycle that seems to be forever imprinted in people's minds because they just prioritize things that are inconsequential. But like I said, I hope the rest of you have enjoyed the news. Got a little derailed at the end because of this person that likes to, check me out and see what I'm wearing. And maybe I'll do my next stream with my shirt open so he can get his fan service. And maybe I'll even do one where maybe I don't wear my glasses for that one. Maybe I show my eyes. So yeah, I appreciate your participation. Load. No, David, we had some news and then we had some goofiness. People like apparently observing my clothes. I didn't know I was a fashion icon. Like, I'm talking about my clothes. That's my trademark. All right, so thank you. Have a good day.